the betrayal that echoes in silence. There comes a moment in every wounded soul's life when the silence screams louder than words. It's the kind of silence that wraps around your chest like a suffocating weight, making it hard to breathe, hard to think, and even harder to move forward. You sit there, numb and hollow, staring at the shattered remains of what you once believed in, what you once thought was loyalty, trust, and love. It's in those moments when the truth hits hardest. Those who you sacrificed for, those who you stood by even when you were drowning, have turned out to be nothing more than parasites, feeding off your kindness, your love, and your time without a shred of remorse. They smiled in your face, didn't they? With sweetness and charm. They pretended to be your support, your ally, your friend. But behind those smiles, behind polite gestures, they were feeding off you, draining you slowly, quietly. They took your trust and shattered it without flinching, took your love and twisted it, took your time and gave you nothing in return. They had no hesitation, no guilt. They walked away without a second glance, leaving you there, standing in the ruins of your own heart, wondering how someone you gave so much could turn so cold, so indifferent. You gave not because you were weak, but because you believed in the goodness of others. You believed that loyalty should be returned, that love should be cherished, that friendship should be reciprocal. You stood by them when they had nothing to offer. You were the one who listened when they needed to talk, the one who stayed when everyone else left, the one who offered your hand when they were falling apart. But in return, they treated you like a stepping stone, someone to be used and discarded when their needs were met. Now, you're left in the silence they left behind, lost in your own thoughts, questioning everything you once knew about your worth, your kindness, your goodness. The silence that rings in your ears, louder than any voice could ever be. You're left with the echo of your own heartbeat, wondering, how could they do this to me? The pain doesn't make sense, does it? Betrayal never does. Because when you live with integrity, when you give with an open heart, betrayal doesn't fit into your world. It's a puzzle with pieces that never quite connect, a reality you can't quite comprehend. No matter how many times you try to turn the situation over in your mind, how could they do this to you? And yet, the more you ask, the less it makes sense. Because betrayal is never meant to make sense. It's just a raw, cutting reality you have to face. But maybe, just maybe, the pain isn't meant to make sense. Maybe the injustice you've suffered isn't something you're meant to fix, but something life itself will take care of. What if every tear you shed, every sleepless night you spent wondering how it all went wrong, was not a sign of weakness, but a seed planted in the soil of divine justice? Life doesn't forget. It sees. It watches. It remembers. And it waits for the right moment, when the scales of justice will tip and the balance of what was taken from you will be returned in ways you could never predict. And while it feels like they've gotten away with it, while it feels like they've gone on with their lives unaffected by the chaos they caused, trust this. Life is a rhythm that doesn't allow cruelty to go unpunished, no matter how long it takes. The weight of what they've done will come back to them, slowly, quietly, but it will come back. And when it does, it will be a reckoning they never saw coming. This is not revenge. It is not bitterness. It is not even anger. It is simply the rhythm of life correcting the imbalance they created. And you, though broken, though wounded, though left in the wake of their actions, will stand taller. Because your pain will not be in vain. It will be the seed of your own growth, your own transformation. And their suffering will be the reflection of their own choices, their own cruelty. So, sit in your silence for now, knowing that it is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of their downfall. The pain of kindness misunderstood. Kindness. It's one of the most misunderstood virtues in this world, isn't it? People often mistake it for weakness, for naivety, for something that can be taken advantage of without consequences. But the truth is, kindness is not a sign of weakness. It is the mark of strength. You didn't offer your kindness because you had nothing left to give. You gave because you had an abundance of it. You believed that the world could be better, that people could be better. And so you gave freely. You offered your time, your heart, your soul, your unwavering support because you believed in the goodness of others. You wanted to help. You wanted to make a difference. And when they came to you in their darkest moments, when they needed a friend, you were there without hesitation, without expecting anything in return. But what did they do with that kindness? They mocked it. They ridiculed it. They used it as if it were a disposable commodity, something to be consumed and thrown away when they no longer needed it. They laughed behind your back, whispered to others about how soft you were, how emotional you were, how too nice you were. The very things that made you human, the things that made you genuine, were the things they used to belittle you. They painted your compassion as a weakness, your generosity as a flaw. They laughed at your softness, the very softness that kept them afloat when their world was sinking. And then, when they were finished using you, they walked away, leaving you broken, abandoned, and questioning your own value. And yet, even after all of that, even after they trampled on your kindness, when the store of their own life came crashing down, where did they turn? They turned to you. They came running back to you because, despite all the mockery, despite all the derision, they knew that you were the one person who would never turn them away. You were the safe place they could come to when they needed comfort, when they needed reassurance, when they needed someone to hold them up, when their world was falling apart. They knew that you would be there for them. They counted on your loyalty, your selflessness, your ability to put others before yourself. They took and they took without ever truly giving back, without ever acknowledging the sacrifices you made for them. They took your time, your love, your energy, your care, and they gave you nothing in return but disrespect, entitlement, and silence. But now look at them. Look at what they've become. Look at the emptiness in their lives, the way people have begun to distance themselves from them, the way the warmth they once basked in has vanished into the cold void they created. The connections they have now are shallow, meaningless, built on false pretenses. They may surround themselves with people, but those people aren't there because they truly care. No, they're there because they're playing the same game, a game where only surface-level connections are valued, where authenticity is traded for convenience. They're alone in a crowd, just like they left you alone when you needed them the most. And they're starting to feel it, aren't they? The hollow loneliness they thought they could escape by filling their lives with distractions, with people who don't see them for who they really are. The emptiness they once ignored in you has now grown inside them, like a gnawing pain that they can't escape. The absence of true connection is beginning to sink in. The same way they treated you, the same way they dismissed your kindness as something to be used and discarded, is now the way the world is treating them. People avoid them now, just like they once avoided you. They're starting to see that kindness isn't something that can be endlessly exploited. It's not an infinite resource. It's sacred, and once it's violated, once it's trampled on, it rarely returns. It's a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? To watch them now, when you know that everything they once had, everything they once took from you, is slowly slipping away. They mocked you for your loyalty, for your kindness, for your ability to love without conditions. And now look at them. They have no real friends, no real support, no one to stand by them when the storm comes. The people who used to bask in their false warmth have all turned away, because deep down, they know that the warmth wasn't real. It was a mirage, a fleeting thing built on manipulation and self-interest. They are surrounded by acquaintances, but no one is truly there for them. They are alone, and they're starting to realize that loneliness is a far more painful thing to endure than the one they once watched you endure in silence. This is the price of mocking kindness. It's not about revenge. It's not about wishing them ill. It's about the natural order of things, about the rhythm of life that inevitably returns everything we put out into the world, multiplied. They mocked your love, and now they are unloved. They ridiculed your loyalty, and now they are disposable. They laugh at your softness, and now the world has turned cold on them. And no matter how hard they try to fill the void with fake connections, with distractions, with shallow validation, they will never replace what they once had, because what they had in you was priceless. It was real. It was rare. And now it's gone. And they are starting to feel the weight of that loss. The emptiness that you once carried, that they once ignored, is now their burden to bear. And no matter how much they try to deny it, no matter how much they try to fake their way through life, they will always feel that absence, the absence of true kindness, of real love, of loyalty that never faltered, even when they least deserved it. Now they must sit with themselves, alone, with the echoes of their own choices. They must face the truth that the kindness they took for granted, the love they exploited, will never come back to them in the same way. Life doesn't forget. It doesn't ignore the pain caused by those who take without giving, who use without acknowledging. And now, as they sit in their emptiness, they are starting to understand the value of what they threw away. Too late to ever get it back. The price of betrayal and deception. Betrayal, in its purest form, is not just about the act itself. It's not just the moment someone lies, cheats, or deceives you. The real agony of betrayal comes from the realization that someone you trusted, someone you believed in, someone you offered your heart to, has turned that trust into something they can manipulate and use for their own gain. It's the sharp sting of knowing that they didn't care about you as a person, but rather as an opportunity, a tool, a pawn in their game. The worst betrayal isn't just when someone lies to you. It's when they twist your trust into a weapon and use it against you. The worst betrayal isn't the one from an enemy who's always been your enemy. No, it's the one from someone you once thought would never hurt you. The one who knew your vulnerabilities, your fears, your dreams, and chose to use that knowledge not to protect you, but to hurt you. What's worse than the lies they told you? It's the fact that they didn't even flinch. They didn't hesitate. They didn't even pause to consider the damage they were causing. They didn't feel the weight of their deception. They didn't apologize. Instead, they justified their actions as if they were somehow entitled to hurt you, to manipulate your love and loyalty, to bend the truth to fit their own narrative. They didn't even acknowledge that what they were doing was wrong. Instead, they acted like the story they told themselves was the truth, while the truth was buried beneath layers of manipulation and self-interest. And the worst part is, you carried the weight of their lies in silence. You didn't fight back. You didn't expose them for what they were doing. You didn't retaliate. You chose dignity. You chose to be quiet because deep down you believed that justice, the kind that comes from truth, would eventually prevail. But while you were sitting there quietly, silently bearing the weight of the deception, something was happening. Lies are fragile things. They require constant reinforcement, constant defense, constant fabrication to keep the illusion alive. The stories they told about you, the one that painted you as unstable, as a villain, as someone who was too emotional, too sensitive, too weak, those lies started to unravel. They began to crack. People began to see the inconsistencies. The truth, which they had buried beneath layers of falsehoods, started to rise to the surface. And it wasn't because you exposed them. No, the truth didn't need your help. It started to break through on its own, slowly and inevitably. Time, that patient force, began to chip away at the facade they had so carefully built. The lies they told were beginning to look less convincing. People started to ask questions. Some began to step back. Some started to see the cracks in the stories they had been told. The trust they had manipulated began to fade. The people who had once believed them were now beginning to doubt, beginning to question the version of reality they had been sold. What they didn't realize is that the lies they told didn't just hurt you. They hurt everyone who came into contact with the story they painted about you. Because lies have a way of spreading, of planting seeds of doubt in the minds of others. And once those seeds are planted, they grow. They fester. They begin to eat away at the relationships, the connections, the trust that have been built. And now, they are the ones who are being exposed, not because of anything you did, but because of what they did. Time has a way of revealing the truth. It exposes the falsehoods. It tears down the walls we build to protect ourselves from the consequences of our actions. And now, the house of cards they built is trembling, crumbling under the weight of their own deceit. The reputation they worked so hard to protect, the image they spent so much time cultivating, is starting to rot. It's beginning to decay. And there's nothing they can do to stop it. They thought they could hide behind their lies forever, that they could continue to manipulate the truth, that they could twist the narrative to fit their needs. But now, the truth is coming for them. And as it does, it strips away everything they've built. Their reputation is unraveling. The mask they wore to hide their true nature is slipping. People are starting to see them for who they really are, not the version they've been fed, but the one they've tried so hard to bury. And this is the price of deception. It's not loud and explosive like we might expect. No, the cost of lying, of betraying trust, is much more subtle. It's not an immediate crash. It's not a sudden downfall. It's a slow, inevitable unraveling. The lies they told to protect themselves, the lies they told to manipulate the narrative, they don't just disappear when they are exposed. No, they leave a mark. They leave a stain on everything they touch. And now, they're living in the aftermath of that. The people who once admired them are beginning to question them. The ones who once trusted them are starting to doubt them. The very image they built is beginning to fall apart, piece by piece, until all that's left is a raw, unfiltered truth of who they are. And once that truth comes to light, there's no going back. There's no erasing the damage. There's no undoing the harm they caused. But they don't understand it yet, do they? They don't see that what they built was never solid to begin with. They thought they could get away with it. They thought they could continue to deceive, to manipulate, to use people for their own benefit. But life doesn't reward deceit. Life doesn't reward those who build their lives on lies. No, life exposes them. Slowly, surely, ruthlessly. And when the truth finally does come out, it's not just the person who has been deceived who suffers. No, everyone who is involved in the lie, everyone who is manipulated by it, will begin to feel the consequences. The trust they once enjoyed begins to evaporate. The people who once believed in them start to distance themselves. The foundation they built their life on begins to crumble. And when that happens, when everything starts to fall apart, they will be left standing there alone with nothing but the wreckage of their own making, the weight of abandonment, and the silence of those who should have stayed. There's a type of hurt that cuts deeper than any betrayal, any lie, any manipulation. It's a hurt of abandonment, the silence of those who should have stood by you when you needed them most. It's one thing to be betrayed by someone who was never truly loyal to you. You expect that from enemies, from people who never had your best interests at heart. But the real devastation, the one that breaks you in ways you never thought possible, is when the people you trusted, the ones you counted on, the ones you believed in, turn their backs when you're drowning in pain. They were supposed to be there for you. They were supposed to be the ones who held you up when life knocked you down, who stood with you when the world seemed against you. And yet, when you were breaking, when you were crying in the dark, when you needed comfort more than anything, they weren't there. They weren't there to pick up the pieces of your shattered heart, to offer a hand to lift you up, or to even say, "I see you, I hear you, I'm here for you." Instead, they vanished into crowd. They pretended they didn't see you falling apart. They laughed with others while you were drowning in silence. They saw the cracks forming in your life, but they didn't even pause to ask if you were okay. They didn't care enough to reach out, to offer any kind of solace, to be the ones who could make the pain bearable. And that's the most painful part of abandonment. It's not just the absence of those you loved. It's the indifference. It's the fact that they saw your struggle, they saw your agony, and still, they chose not to act. They didn't care enough to show up, to be present, to share in your burden. They didn't take the time to acknowledge that you were fighting a battle no one could see, a war within your own soul that was tearing you apart. They didn't care that you were sacrificing your own peace, your own stability, just to help them, just to be there for them when they needed you. And yet, when the tables were turned, when it was your turn to need someone, to need them, they walked away. The silence from them wasn't just a lack of words. It was a betrayal of a much deeper kind. It wasn't just about them being unavailable. It was about them not even caring enough to try to understand your pain, your sorrow, your struggle. It was about them choosing to be absent when their presence was the only thing that could have made a difference. And what's worse is that you weren't asking for much. You weren't asking them to solve your problems or take away your pain. You were simply asking for them to show up, to be there, to listen, to stand beside you the way you had stood beside them. No questions asked. But in the end, they didn't. They turned their backs on you when you needed them most, and left you to walk through the hardest moments of your life alone. What makes this abandonment even more excruciating is the realization that these same people, the ones who left you in your darkest hour, are now feeling the very same emptiness, the same loneliness that they once saw you endure. They didn't care when you were isolated, when you had no one to turn to, when you were consumed by grief and confusion. They didn't see how you were falling apart in the quiet, how you were crying into your pillow at night, feeling like the world had forgotten you. They didn't see your desperation for connection, for someone, anyone, to care enough to ask how you were doing. And now, in a cruel twist of fate, they're beginning to experience the very thing they so callously ignored. Life has a way of returning the energy we put out into the world, sometimes in ways we don't expect. The people who abandoned you in your time of need are now feeling the weight of that same abandonment. The people who walked away from your pain are now walking through their own deserts, trying to find someone to hold them up, someone to offer them the comfort and care that they denied you. But this time, there's no one there to catch them. There's no one there to pick up the pieces, to offer a listening ear, to provide the support that they once took for granted. They are beginning to understand what it feels like to be invisible, to be left behind, to have people pretend that they don't see the cracks in their life. And that's when the truth hits them. When you needed them most, they weren't there. But now, when they need someone, no one is there for them. The silence they once inflicted on you is now the silence they are living in, and it's suffocating. It's not just the absence of their presence that hurts. It's a recognition that they will never understand the depth of your pain, the depth of your disappointment, the depth of your heartbreak. You didn't just lose their support in the moment you needed it most. You lost a hope that maybe, just maybe, they would care enough to recognize the depth of your hurt. And now, they are left to face the emptiness that comes when the very people who used to be there for them are no longer available. The friendships they once took for granted are slipping away. The connections they relied on are fading. The safety net they thought would always be there is gone. And they are left standing alone, surrounded by people who may be there in body, but not in soul. Because that's the difference between genuine connection and the shallow relationships we often settle for. People who truly care for you are not just there when things are easy. They are there when things are hard. They are the ones who stand by your side when the world seems against you, when you're falling apart, when you feel like you have nothing left to give. But the ones who only show up when it's convenient for them, when things are calm and stable, are the ones who will disappear when the storms come. And now, the people who once believed that their connections were secure, that their relationships were built on solid ground, are beginning to see the cracks. They are beginning to feel the instability of relationships that were never built on loyalty or mutual respect. They are beginning to see that the comfort they took for granted was never really theirs to begin with. It was yours. And now that you're gone, now that you've moved on, they are left to face the reality of what they once had and lost. And it's a bitter realization, because they thought they could walk away from you, from your loyalty, from your support, and find something better. They thought they could move on to something easier, something more convenient, something that wouldn't require them to invest as much. But now, they're beginning to see that the relationships they thought were stable, the ones they thought would always be there, were built on sand, not on the solid foundation of love and trust that you offered. And now, as they stand on that shifting ground, they are beginning to feel the emptiness you once felt. They are beginning to feel the loneliness you once endured. They are beginning to feel the isolation, the pain of being abandoned by those who should have stood by them. And when that moment comes, when they finally realize that no one is there to catch them, that no one is there to pick up the pieces of their broken heart, they will understand what it feels like to be left behind. And when that happens, they will understand the weight of their own actions, the consequences of their choices. They will realize that what they once dismissed, what they once ignored, was the very thing they needed most. Someone who cared enough to stay, to offer love, to offer support. And now, as the silence grows louder, as the emptiness consumes them, they will finally understand the price of abandonment. They will finally understand the cost of walking away from the one person who would have never left them, the price of deception and the weight of lies. There's a profound kind of cruelty that lingers in the quiet aftermath of deception, a cruelty that often goes unnoticed by those who play the game of lies. Deception, in its most insidious form, isn't just about hiding the truth. It's about manipulating reality, twisting perceptions, and play with the hearts of those who trust you. It's one thing to lie to someone you don't care about, but it's a whole different level of betrayal when you lie to someone who's given you everything: their trust, their time, their loyalty, their love. To deceive someone who has opened their heart to you, who has stood by you when no one else did, is a betrayal that strikes at the very core of their being. The worst part is that when you deceive someone in this way, you don't just break their trust. You tear apart their sense of self. You make them question everything they thought they knew about themselves, their instincts, their choices. You make them doubt their own reality, wondering if they were too naive, too trusting, too kind. And the lies that are told don't just shatter the present. They leave scars that last long after the truth has been revealed. The lies they told you were not just words, they were weapons. And those weapons were aimed at the very heart of your connection, at the foundation of your relationship. They twisted the truth, bent it, and reshaped it into something unrecognizable. They used your vulnerability, your trust, as a means to craft their own narrative, to manipulate your perception of events, to rewrite the story in a way that placed in the position of victim, while you were painted as a villain. It's a tactic so deeply manipulative that it often takes time to even realize what's happening. At first, you question yourself, you second-guess your memories, your experiences, your feelings. You wonder if you're overreacting, if maybe you misinterpreted things, if you misunderstood their intentions. You start to doubt yourself because they are so convincing in their deception, so certain in their lies, that it's hard to hold on to your own truth. But deep down, you know something is off. You know that the version of events they're feeding you doesn't align with the reality you've lived. You know that their lies are a smokescreen, a carefully constructed illusion designed to protect them at your expense. What makes this type of betrayal even worse is the complete absence of remorse. They don't flinch when they deceive you. They don't hesitate when they twist the truth. They don't feel guilty as they watch your world crumble under the weight of their manipulation. They justify their actions, convincing themselves that their lies are necessary, that they had no other choice but to deceive you. And so, they continue to lie, to deceive, to manipulate with a sense of entitlement, as if they're somehow entitled to destroy your peace, your stability, your sense of self. They play the game of deception with such ease, such fluidity, that it becomes second nature to them. But what they fail to realize is that lies, no matter how well-crafted, are fragile. They require constant maintenance, constant defense, constant vigilance to keep the illusion intact. And eventually, that maintenance becomes impossible. The lies begin to unravel. The cracks start to show. And as they do, the weight of the deception becomes unbearable. You see, lies don't just fall apart in loud, dramatic explosions. They disintegrate slowly, quietly, like a building slowly sinking into the earth. At first, no one notices the subtle shifts, the little inconsistencies, the small things that don't add up. But over time, the truth begins to rise to the surface, no matter how deep it was buried. No matter how much they try to bury it beneath their charm, their manipulations, their deceit. The cracks start to form in the facade they so carefully built, and people begin to notice. They begin to question things that once seemed unquestionable. The version of events they were fed no longer seems to align with the reality unfolding before them. And suddenly, they are left exposed, vulnerable in a way they never anticipated. They thought they could keep up the act forever. They thought they could maintain the illusion indefinitely. But the truth has a way of coming to light, and when it does, it doesn't just fade into background. It takes center stage. The worst part for them isn't the truth coming out. It's the way people begin to perceive them once the lies have been exposed. They can no longer control the narrative. They can no longer manipulate the way others see them. The trust they once had is gone, replaced by doubt and suspicion. The people who once believed in them, who once stood by them, are now questioning everything. And in those moments, when the lies start to unravel, when the facade begins to crumble, they feel the weight of their actions more than ever. It's not just about the loss of trust. It's a fear of being exposed, of having their secrets revealed for all to see. Because deep down, they know that once the truth is out, there's no going back. Once the lie is shattered, the consequences are inevitable. And here's the thing about lies. They don't just affect the person being deceived. They affect everyone involved. They create a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial victim. The people who believe the lies, the ones who trusted the deceiver, begin to feel the betrayal, too. They begin to see the inconsistencies, to question the narrative they were given, and they begin to feel the weight of deception on their own hearts. Relationships that were once built on trust and mutual respect begin to fracture, as the truth of the lies seeps into the foundation of everything. The deceiver is no longer just someone who has harmed one person. They are someone who has hurt many, and that damage cannot be undone by a simple apology or a change in behavior. The trust that was broken is not something that can be easily repaired. Once a lie has been told, it has planted a seed of doubt that grows over time, and that seed cannot simply be uprooted with a few words. In the end, the cost of deception is far higher than the deceiver ever anticipates. It's not just about the immediate fallout, the loss of trust, the breaking of relationships. It's the long-term consequences, the isolation, the regret, the shame that follows them everywhere they go. They may try to cover it up, to hide it behind their smile, behind their charisma, behind their outward success. But deep down, they know that their lies are catching up to them. They know that the walls they built to protect themselves are slowly crumbling. And as they stand in the ruins of their own deception, they will realize that the cost of their lies is far greater than they ever could have imagined. Because when you lie to someone who trusted you with their heart, when you manipulate their reality to suit your own needs, you don't just lose their trust, you lose your own soul. And that is a loss that no amount of success, no amount of popularity, no amount of wealth can ever compensate for. Because once you lose your integrity, once you lose your truth, you're left with nothing but the hollow echo of your own lies, and that is a fate far worse than any consequence life can bring. The silent justice of life and the long road to healing. The essence of life lies in its remarkable rhythm, the way it moves, flows, and restores balance. There's something deeply profound about the way life, in its subtle wisdom, ensures that every action, every choice, comes full circle. You may not see it immediately nor feel in the moment, but the universe, the very fabric of existence, keeps track of every act of kindness, every gesture of loyalty, every drop of love you have given. And when you find yourself in the midst of betrayal, when you feel the cold sting of abandonment, when you question the very core of your beliefs and trust in humanity, remember this: life does not forget. It does not ignore the pain caused to those who only sought to give, to love, to be loyal. The same way the warmth you offer was taken for granted, the same way your heart was used, manipulated, and discarded, life sees it all. And though the rhythm may be slow, it's deliberate and it's inevitable. You may feel lost, abandoned, and forsaken in the aftermath of betrayal, but do not mistake that for defeat. For in these moments, something beautiful is happening. The seeds of justice are being planted in the soil of your suffering, and they will grow, even if you can't yet see them. It is in this space, in the quiet of your grief, that life is working in ways you might not understand, slowly but surely balancing the scales. What they took from you, your kindness, your trust, your love, will not vanish into thin air. It will come back, not necessarily in the form you expected, but in a way that is deeply connected to the integrity you maintained throughout the pain. You see, those who betrayed you, those who used you for their own gain, who took advantage of your goodness, cannot escape the consequences of their actions forever. They might seem fine on the surface. They might have the world fooled with their facade, their charm, their ability to manipulate the perceptions of others. But life has a way of chipping away at these illusions, peeling back the layers until the truth is exposed. And when the mask falls, when the cracks in their carefully crafted persona appear, they will feel the weight of what they have done. The universe, or fate, or whatever you choose to call it, will make sure that they taste the emptiness they once caused in you. The pain they inflicted on you will echo back to them, but it will not be in the form of punishment you may envision. No, life's justice is not often loud or dramatic. It doesn't come with bursts of fire or thunder. It comes slowly, quietly, and with unwavering precision. It comes in the form of isolation, of losing the very connections they once took for granted, of seeing the world they built crumble beneath them piece by piece. The relationships they thought would always be there, the people they used, the ones they manipulated, will eventually turn away, and they will find themselves surrounded not by genuine love or friendship, but by empty faces, hollow conversations, and profound sense of loneliness that they will not know how to escape. They will realize too late that the very thing they mocked in you, your kindness, your loyalty, your emotional depth, is what they needed most, and they lost it, not because you took away, but because they destroyed it with their own hands. In the end, the justice life brings is not something you orchestrate. It's something that unfolds naturally, inevitably, as a balance of cause and effect takes shape. And as you stand on the other side of this, as you look back at the wreckage they caused in your life, it's important to remember that the absence of immediate consequences does not mean that there is no justice. Time, in its own quiet way, will reveal the true cost of their actions. The weight of their cruelty, their manipulation, and their disregard for your feelings will catch up with them, even if it takes years. You may never see it directly. You may never witness their downfall in the way you imagine, but trust this. Life has its own rhythm, its own pace, and is relentless in its pursuit of balance. It will catch up to them, not because you wish them ill, but because that is the way of the universe. Life does not allow cruelty to go unpunished, even if the punishment is not immediate, even if it doesn't unfold in the way you would hope. For you, the path to healing is not about waiting for their downfall. It's not about clinging to the hope that they will one day feel the sting of their actions. No, the path to healing begins when you stop seeking justice from them and start looking inward. It begins when you realize that the pain they cause you is not something you have to carry forever. The burden of their betrayal does not have to define you. You are more than the sum of their cruelty, more than the scars they left on your heart. Your worth does not lie in their actions or in their lack of remorse. It lies in your ability to rise above the pain, to find peace in the midst of chaos, to reclaim the pieces of yourself they tried to steal. As you walk this journey of healing, it's essential to remember that you are not alone. You may feel isolated, abandoned, and betrayed, but you are not truly alone in your struggle. There are others out there who have walked this path before you, who have endured the same pain, the same heartbreak, the same soul-shattering betrayal. And while their stories may be different from yours, there's a shared strength that exists in the collective experience of those who have loved deeply and been hurt beyond measure. Their strength becomes your strength. Their resilience becomes your resilience. And through this, you learn that the greatest revenge is not in their suffering. It's in your healing. It's in the way you rebuild your life, piece by piece, and reclaim your peace, your joy, your purpose. Healing is not linear. There will be days when the pain feels fresh, when the memories of their betrayal resurface, and you wonder if you'll ever be truly free from the shadow they cast. But in those moments, know that you are not broken. You are in the process of rebuilding, and that process takes time. Trust that life, in its quiet, unyielding way, is already working behind the scenes, orchestrating the return of your peace, your clarity, and your strength. One day, you will wake up and realize that the hold they had over you, the power they once exerted on your heart, is no longer there. It won't happen overnight, but in the quiet moments of reflection, you will feel it. A sense of release, a feeling of freedom, a lightness in your soul that was once buried beneath their weight. That's when you'll understand that the true justice is not in their suffering. It's in your survival, your growth, and your ability to walk away from the wreckage and build something beautiful again. And when that day comes, when you finally step into your own power once more, you will realize that everything you endured was not in vain. It was a furnace that forged you into something stronger, something wiser, and something far more resilient than you ever knew you could be. The unseen price of betrayal and the forgotten value of loyalty. There's a kind of wound that betrays you in ways you can't quite put into words. It's not the physical wound, the kind you can point to and say, "This is where it hurts." No, this one cuts deeper, in the quiet spaces of your heart and mind, where trust once lived and love once thrived. Betrayal, especially from someone you once trusted, is a kind of wound that is almost impossible to fully heal, at least not in the way that you wish it could be. You see, when someone betrays your trust, they don't just steal something tangible. They steal your faith, your sense of security, and your belief in the goodness of others. They take what you gave so freely, your kindness, your loyalty, your vulnerability, and they weaponize it against you, turning it into something that no longer feels like a gift but a burden. And what's worse is that they don't even recognize the value of what they've taken. To them, it's disposable. It's nothing more than a tool they can use for their own benefit. But to you, it was sacred. That's the thing about loyalty. It's often misunderstood. To the person who has never given it with their whole heart, it may seem like weakness. They look at the person who sacrifices, who gives everything, and they see nothing but an easy target, someone who could be used and discarded once they've served their purpose. They think that loyalty is a game they can play, a card they can pull whenever it's convenient. They think that loyalty is something that can be taken for granted, something that doesn't require effort, respect, or appreciation. But what they fail to understand is that loyalty is not just a promise. It's a commitment, a bond that takes time, trust, and a deep understanding of the other person's heart. It's not a transaction, it's a gift. And when someone takes that loyalty for granted, when they use it for their own gain, without ever stopping to consider what they're asking for, they commit a sin that is far more damaging than they can possibly comprehend. What makes betrayal so painful is not just the act itself, but the fact that it often comes from those you least expect it from. These are the people who saw you at your most vulnerable, who knew the depths of your heart, and who chose to take advantage of it. They weren't just strangers who came into your life to use you. They were the people who were supposed to have your back, the ones who knew your pain and, for a moment, made you believe that they understood you. They were the ones who saw you when you were down, who stood by you when others walked away, and who promised to never let you fall. They made you believe, with every word and every action, that they were your safe place in a chaotic world. And yet, in the end, they did what the world did not. They betrayed you, and they did it not in secret, but in the open, without hesitation, without remorse. They took your love, your kindness, and used it as if it were their right to do so. And when they were done, they walked away without a second glance, leaving you to pick up the pieces of your shattered heart. This is the harsh reality of loyalty. It is often undervalued by those who have never had to give it. They mistake your loyalty for something that can be discarded easily, without consequence. And yet, they are unaware of the damage they cause when they do so. For every person they use, for every bond they break, there is a cost that they do not see until it's too late. They may be surrounded by people, by faces that smile and laugh, but deep down, they will feel the absence of what they once had with you. They will realize that the loyalty you gave them was not just a simple transaction. It was a lifeline. It was a thread that held them together when the world was falling apart. It was the safety they took for granted, the warmth they sought when everything else was cold. And now that warmth is gone. The threads have unraveled, and they are left with nothing but the cold emptiness of their own selfishness. They may try to replace what they lost, to find new people to fill the void you left, but the truth is that the kind of loyalty you offer cannot be replicated. It cannot be mimicked by those who only come into their lives when it's convenient, when it's easy, when there's something to gain. They will never find someone who will stand by them through thick and thin, who will sacrifice their own happiness to ensure theirs, not because it's a duty, but because it's a love that runs deeper than words can express. And that's where the tragedy of betrayal lies. Not in the loss of one person's loyalty, but in the absence of true connection. When someone uses you, exploits your kindness, and then walks away, they are not just losing you, they are losing something far greater. They are losing the opportunity to experience what real loyalty looks like. They are losing the chance to build relationships based on trust, mutual respect, and genuine care. They are losing the chance to be loved in a way that is unconditional, a way that doesn't ask for anything in return. And the saddest part is that they won't even realize what they've lost until they're standing alone, surrounded by people who never really cared about them, who never really saw them, who only pretended to be there for the good times. They will have no one to turn to, no one to rely on when the weight of their actions finally catches up with them. They will be left with nothing but the echoes of their own mistakes, echoes that will grow louder with each passing day. But here's the thing about loyalty. It's never truly gone. The love you gave, the support you offered, the kindness you extended, all of it remains in the world, like ripples on the surface of a still pond. It may not always come back to you in the way you expect, but it will find its way back. Life has a way of rewarding those who give without expecting anything in return, who love without condition, who stand by others even when it's hard, even when it hurts. The universe has a way of recognizing that kind of goodness and ensuring that it doesn't go unnoticed. And though the person who betrayed you may never see it, the truth is that their actions will come full circle. The emptiness they created in your life will return to them in ways they can't foresee. It might not be immediate, it might not be dramatic, but it will happen. They will eventually realize that the very loyalty they took for granted is the one thing they will never find again. And when that realization hits, it will be too late. The damage will have been done, and no amount of pretending will undo the harm they caused. As you move forward, you must remind yourself that your loyalty, your kindness, and your love are not weaknesses. They are strengths. And even though someone may have used you, manipulated you, or taken advantage of you, know that your ability to give, to love, and to stay loyal to those who truly deserve it is a rare gift. It's a gift that not everyone has the privilege of receiving. And it's a gift that will continue to shine, even in the darkest moments of your life. The betrayal may have left scars, but it has also taught you the true value of your heart. It has shown you the depth of your own capacity for love and loyalty, and has prepared you for the people who will come into your life and recognize that value. People who will cherish you for who you are, not for what they can take from you. And when that day comes, you will understand that your loyalty was never meant to be given to those who could not appreciate it. It was always meant for those who would honor it, protect it, and return it in kind. And that, my friend, is the greatest gift of all, the ever-resilient spirit of healing and the rebirth of trust. Healing is not linear, nor is it predictable. It is a quiet, often painstaking process that can take years to unfold. And in some cases, it might feel like you're moving backward rather than forward. But this is a journey of emotional restoration, a road that is filled with sharp turns, unexpected obstacles, and moments of excruciating stillness. After betrayal, after the wounds of trust have been ripped open by those who were supposed to be the guardians of your heart, there is a long, complex road ahead. The world feels different now, darker, perhaps, or colder. The people around you may still seem the same, but you look at them through a new lens, a lens that has been stained by the actions of those who betrayed you. The innocence with which you once gave your heart freely, the optimism with which you believed in the goodness of others, now feels like a distant memory, one that you will never get back. But even in this place, even in the depths of your heartbreak, there is something profoundly important to remember. Healing, however long and difficult it may be, is possible. It is a journey that, while it may take you through valleys of despair and mountains of doubt, can lead you to a place of new strength, of new understanding, and ultimately, to the rebirth of trust. At the beginning of this journey, it may feel impossible to even imagine a life where trust isn't just a distant ideal. It might feel like betrayal has stolen something from you that can never be returned, like the essence of your ability to connect with others has been shattered beyond repair. The damage feels permanent, as if the scars of the past will never fade. It can be easy in moments of deep pain to give into the temptation of closing yourself off, of building walls so high and so thick that no one could ever get close enough to hurt you again. And in some ways, that might feel like the only way to survive. After all, if you don't let anyone in, you can't get hurt, right? But this self-imposed exile from the world around you is not the answer. Though the idea of keeping others at arm's length might offer temporary relief from the pain, it only delays the inevitable, true healing. To heal, to rebuild what has been broken, requires you to take the most difficult step of all, vulnerability. This is the paradox of healing. You must open yourself to the possibility of hurt again, of feeling the sting of betrayal again, in order to allow new relationships to flourish, to allow yourself to trust once more. Rebuilding trust is not about giving away freely, as you did before. It's not about blind optimism or ignoring the signs of someone who is unworthy of your faith. Trust, once broken, must be rebuilt slowly, carefully, and on your terms. It's not about rushing into the arms of the next person who shows you kindness, but about learning to trust yourself first. Trust in your instincts, your ability to judge character, your ability to discern the difference between those who genuinely want to be there for you and those who are just looking for an opportunity to exploit your kindness. This process is a delicate dance, one that requires immense patience with yourself and others. It's about learning that you are capable of protecting your heart while still being open to love, to connection, and to the possibility that not everyone will betray you. This journey of healing also requires you to confront your pain head-on, to feel the weight of your emotions without numbing them or pushing them aside. Pain is not something that can be avoided or outrun. It doesn't fade just because you want it to. In fact, the more you resist it, the longer it will stay with you, like an unwelcome guest who refuses to leave. But if you allow yourself to feel it fully, to sit within the quiet moments of solitude, you will begin to notice something incredible happening. The pain starts to lose its grip on you. It doesn't vanish completely, but it becomes more manageable. It starts to feel less like a wound and more like a part of you, a scar that tells a story but no longer controls your life. And as you heal, you begin to see that your pain, your heartbreak, and your betrayal no longer define you. They are a part of your story, but they are not the whole of it. In this process of healing, one of the most important lessons you will learn is how to reclaim your sense of worth. Betrayal, especially by someone you love and trusted, can make you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. It can make you wonder if you were ever worthy of loyalty, or if your kindness and love were just weaknesses that others took advantage of. But the truth is that your worth was never tied to how others treated you, no matter how painful their actions were. Your value is inherent, it is constant, and it does not diminish because of someone else's failures. It is in recognizing this fundamental truth that you begin to heal. You must look inward and remind yourself of the love you deserve, the respect you are entitled to, and the boundaries you need to protect yourself. You must also forgive yourself for any guilt you may have carried, guilt that perhaps you trusted too easily, or that you ignored the signs of betrayal. The truth is, you did the best you could with the information you had at the time, and that is all anyone can do. It's important to release any shame that may still linger from that experience. You are not the cause of someone else's betrayal. They are the architects of their own actions. As you heal, you will find that your perspective begins to shift. You will begin to recognize that not every person you meet is going to hurt you. Not every relationship will end in betrayal. You will learn that people are not all the same, and that while betrayal may come from a place of selfishness or weakness, there are people in this world who possess integrity, compassion, and the capacity for true connection. These people will become the cornerstones of your new life, the ones who show you that trust is possible again, that love is worth the risk. But in order to open yourself to these new relationships, you must first do the hard work of rebuilding trust within yourself. You must learn to trust that, despite your past experiences, you can make choices that honor your heart. And slowly, as you move forward, you will find that the world does not look as dark as it once did. The people in it begin to seem more trustworthy, more genuine. And in the midst of your healing, you will realize that the trust you rebuild will be stronger than ever before. In the end, the greatest gift of healing is not the absence of pain, but the wisdom that comes from it. You will no longer be someone who simply gives their trust away to anyone who asks. Instead, you will be someone who offers trust as a precious gift, one that is earned, one that is protected, and one that is given only to those who prove themselves worthy. This new trust will be deeper, more meaningful, and far more resilient than anything you could have imagined before. You will understand, perhaps for the first time, that true strength is not in never being hurt, but in the ability to rise again after the hurt, stronger, wiser, and more self-aware than before. And that is the true power of healing. The ability to reclaim your peace, your trust, and your heart, and to move forward with a spirit that is unbroken, no matter how many times it's been tested. The rebirth of trust is not only possible, it is inevitable for those who dare to heal, to hope, and to love again. As we reach the final chapter of this journey, remember this. Healing is not just about mending the past. It's about redefining your future. It's about understanding that though betrayal may have tried to break you, it has also given you the tools to rebuild yourself stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The trust you rebuild with others, and most importantly with yourself, becomes a powerful force that propels you forward into a future full of possibility and strength. The truth is, we all face challenges, pain, and heartache. But how we rise from those experiences, how we take the lessons and turn them into power, is what truly defines us. You have the ability to heal, to trust again, and to love with a heart that is not naive but incredibly strong. And as you move through life, you will encounter people who resonate with your journey, those who recognize the resilience within you and appreciate the depth of your heart. You will create relationships based not on blind trust, but on the kind of trust that is earned, built, and fortified through shared experiences. And that, my friend, is where the real magic happens. The world is full of opportunities to rebuild, to reconnect, and to live with a renewed sense of trust and love. So, let this be a reminder. You are not defined by your past or by the betrayal you've experienced. You are defined by your ability to rise, to heal, and to move forward with hope in your heart and trust in your soul. If this message resonated with you, if you feel like this journey is one that could help someone else or inspire others who are struggling, don't keep it to yourself. Share this with those who need to hear it. If you found strength, solace, or clarity in these words, it's time to spread that healing. Like, subscribe, and share to keep this conversation going, to help more people find the courage to trust again, to heal, and to transform their lives. Together, we rise stronger. Together, we heal.